Hi everybody, welcome back. This is the another diecast review of this very nice series that we can buy here in Italy about the big scale. They consider big scale, even if they are ordinary 124 scale Formula 1 car made by Ferrari. So it's a selection of some of the most important, in their opinion, Ferrari racer, mostly Formula 1 cars. And this is a very interesting new item. This is an item that arrived on the market here on April 2024, and is the 126 C2, the famous C2 car. Famous because it was quite infamous. It was famous to be basically the car that was used by Villeneuve until his last days. It was the car of the crash, even if not this particular version. A little later on we will see where and how and what the difference they had with the real Villeneuve car. And this is the model reproducing the car driven by Mario Andretti in 1982. I had the opportunity to see this car in Monza Grand Prix 1982, and I think arrived second at the time. It was very, very nice to see. It was a little strange atmosphere. I was a kid. I'm a 1973 baby, so I was 9 years old, and I was looking this race, and it was exceptional to see Big Mario arriving from United States. It was since many, many years. He always been an American pilot, so mostly used to the multi-oval used in American IndyCar. And like nothing, he took this car nearly without any kind of test and setup before, and nearly drive it to the end like a victory, like a winning car. So it was incredible. But part was due to the quality of this exceptional Ferrari made in the 80s, and I think most of the other part was the skill of Big Mario. And the model is absolutely nice, despite the version is a little sorry pardon. As I said, the model is absolutely well done. There is some points that are not convincing in my opinion. First of all, is about the shape. This was the latest configuration of the 1982 season, so as I said before, it was very different from the car used by Gilles Villeneuve in Zolder 1982. 8 May was the day of his crash, and the car was very different in the front end. It was much slimmer in this part, had a different covering part for the suspension, so it was completely different in this area. You see from the picture that is absolutely different car, as well as is different from the same car used. Basically was always the same version, but improved after every Grand Prix, and it was also different from the car used by Didier Pironi, that was the legendary teammate of Gilles Villeneuve when they had the fight in Imola about the position and the rules during the race. This is all kind of tales that you can find all over, much more precise than what can I say, But it was also different from, as I said, Pironi car, because Pironi car had a little even more different from Gilles Villeneuve car performance parts here for the performance on the suspension, to make a little more wing effect on the suspension, So the model itself is absolutely interesting, mostly for the scale. I read that some modeler want to use this car to use it like a donor, because of several details that are not present in the real correct and only existing 124 scale correct car to do Gilles Villeneuve model that was the quite rare today Protar model of the 126 C2. But the Protar, however, was extremely well done, for the model of that years. That was a model produced in the late 80s, early 90s. The quality and the proportion are absolutely well done. And this is a thing that, for example, I don't find in this moment, because I made that model. If you can look around in my channel, you will find a review of the Protar 124 Gilles Villeneuve car 126 C2. I made a car from Imola, so not exactly the car I used in Zolder. You know, the Zolder car had basically something that you can do with this model if you want, if you are willing to use this one like a donor kit, because they feature in the front end 15-inch rims, you know, on the wheels. Instead, ordinary Villeneuve car used to have 13-inch. The same for the back, for the rear tire, you know. Was also interesting that they correctly provide a Goodyear despite with a minor mistake, because in the original car those were dimes written with a white can, so there was a line, a black line between the letters of Goodyear, you know. They were not still Goodyear Eagle. The Goodyear Eagle arrived, if I'm not wrong, it should be around 1984 or 1985, so this was correctly just Goodyear, you know. And it's anyway correct that they always place the bod decal, you know. This is tampo decal over the wheel, you know. Some modelers also try to rework these toys, reworking basically the wheel, so it's enough that you take away this coverage for the transportation of the model. You place a decent tarmac effect on this base or on another surface, and then you work with sand grip or something like that. I have many tricks for such effect. The tire, you know, because the tire, even more in Formula One, is something that is absolutely catching in the first moment when you see the model. As I say every time about this kind of models, I don't know if it is worth it, you know, because they anyway remain toys. The level is anyway collector, they call it collector to make it something a little more nicer than what they are in reality. In reality, they are, in my opinion, constantly quite low level models, you know, for these cars, and it's something that you can buy. I always say that the comparison between the quality of you get and the price that you pay is exceptional, because this is stuff that costs 30 euros, so it's something that you can also find in the parallel collection that they are making here, even around the Formula 1 car in 1/24 scale, just without that showcase, that is the 5 euros of difference, 5 euros, you know. So it's extremely cheap stuff, you know, però it's from Italian language, you know. However, if you look closely to the model, there is several points that are not convincing. So first of all, the stuff that I noted immediately was this line over the body, you know. I will also do probably soon a video comparing this model to the one that I made about Villeneuve, you know, the Protar, you know. I made also that to see the comparison and the difference between the two models. But the first stuff that I see is that this is a new model, so they have nothing in common to do with the model that Protar made 30 years ago right now. But there is some stuff, some issues that are, in my opinion, better done in the Protar model, you know. So first of all, this line, we will see that later, is not present in the Protar model. It's much more smooth, so it's not so curved as you can see here. It's much more flat and lower, and I think the Protar model is correct, because it's the same effect that they had on the 112 scale and on the same Model Factory Hero 120, as well as the Model Factory Hero 112 model, you know, as well as all the 118 from BBR and so on. They have a different line over here. It's also true that it's quite rare that you can find this particular version of the 126 C2. And I think it have been made in purpose, because this Formula 1 car in reality became famous because of the tragic history that she had. It was the first car having a Boxer V6, a Boxer 6-cylinder, sorry, turbo, and also the engine is absolutely well done. You see, it's of course generical, but always remember the level of model we are talking about. This is a low level model, so all the details are enough for what you get for the payment. Also, of course, all the NACA ducts going to the brake are completely closed. This is something that is absolutely different in any real collector model. Also, all this coverage over the engines is too tight to this part. In reality, it was much more separated. There is millions of pictures about this specific car, but consider that in reality there is not one surviving model. There is just one, I think is a kind of mock-up that they made it later, probably around the 90s and so on, to make shows and expo. They nicknamed like 126 G2, but in reality it is not, because it's completely off shape. The front end is absolutely different, so you see that there is something not convincing if you compare the picture of the era to the picture of what is racing today in historical events. It's anyway a red Ferrari Formula One from the tiers. I don't know how they made it, but it's absolutely not realistic model. There is something in that real Formula One that is absolutely weird in the look of the car. You see that there is something. In my opinion, mostly is the front end part. All this area is completely made by fantasy. Probably they had to rebuild, and also over real cars when you have to recreate something like that. And nothing exists of this model any longer, because maybe probably as many of you know, when a car is involved in a tragic accident that take the life of the pilot, usually the manufacturer used to take it back, the remaining parts of the Formula One car or the racing car, and to bury that inside the factory. So the remaining parts of this model, of this particular 126C2 Gilles Villeneuve car I'm talking about, is buried inside the Ferrari factory. The same with the De Angelis Brabham. So it's something that have been constant, is a tradition that they have in motorsport. And the few surviving cars, remember the history of this car. One completely totaled by Gilles Villeneuve crash, another one completely totaled after Didier Pironi crash, then this other one, then the one used by Tambay. They became the evolution of the C2B racing in the following 1983 and 1984 season, arriving until the 156, the last Formula One turbo of the 80s, driven by Alboreto, and it was completely different car, so nothing really exists any longer today. There was a legend about something that was owned by Bernie Ecclestone back in time in Paris, but never have been confirmed, and none of this model have been arriving. Today with the social media and all the possibilities to have documentation about the real model, if a real 12062 will be existing, there will be plenty of pictures, exactly as it happens with the 312 T4 driven by Jody Scheckter. Just a few days ago I was looking in YouTube a video made by the Stig, from which is the name of that British pilot. Help me, the Stig, the real first Stig, Ben Collins, that been visiting Jody Scheckter, and they were showing this exceptionally beautiful and absolutely real 312 T4 is the car owned by Jody Scheckter. Now I know that in May all the collection from Jody will be for sale, so we will see the kind of price, if he sells also that Ferrari, that they will reach. We are talking of several millions of dollars, in my opinion, also because the car is stunning and perfectly working. It is not the same for this one. So when they had so many accidents, exists the CK, that was the 1981 car, but it don't exist a C2, so there is a big hole in the collection. And at today, nobody making a historical Formula One car made a decent replica. Nearly all the one that you see in the historical events are constantly replicas. I see that with my eyes, and the car was owned by Adrian Newey, so we are not talking of the last of the assholes making races. So, and in front of my eyes, Adrian Newey completely totally the GT40, and after 2 hours he had a brand new GT40. So they know that he own a real GT40, so it's just a problem of substitute the VIN over the car. But I see that with my eyes, so it is not true. When they say that they are just a real historical racer, they can be sometimes depending from the model, but when it is something like this type of models, no. Returning to the model, so this is absolutely decent replica. With all the limits of this kind of production, always is weird that they have these seat belts inside. They are just decals starting from the nothing and ending in the nothing. The aluminium part is whatever, the steering wheel is plastic, so the level is constantly the same. And as I continuously will repeat, this is anyway a model that you pay 30 euro, $30, the same, but and so must be taken for what it is. It's a very, very nice toy, absolutely worth the money asked, but we are miles away from a decent replica, in my opinion, from a real replica that I would like to keep in my collection and in my showcase. As I said, I will make it a little later, a brief comparison between what a modeler can do exactly as I did for the Jordan, for the green Jordan from the Cesaris that I made, comparing the 120 Tamiya Studio 27 that I did together with the Edicola type. Edicola is the newspaper shops selling this kind of objects. So it will be interesting to see the difference, not because I think to be so great modeler, but just to show you the difference that there are between something handmade by a modeler and something that you can buy for 30 bucks, So because today is everything have to be on the same level. So if you think that you can buy something like this, you think, oh, well, what I have in collection, this is something that everybody can have. Yeah, maybe in the future you can find this object, instead of paying 30 euro, you can pay 60 euro, you can pay 100 or 200 euro. Okay, no problem. It was the same with Exoto models, but the level is always a die cast, is a toy, is a I don't want to say the F word, but is a toy. So when you have a toy in your hand, everybody around can have the same. It's different if you make it by your own or if you commit to a professional modeler to build something special for you that is unique in the collection. Like in the modern world today, all this argumentation is generical because we are talking the wallet of the person. So of course, to produce something like this, as I say, 30 euro, problem solved. Then in reality, you see that it's not the correct car, it's not the Gilles Villeneuve car. In Italy, this has been a bestseller because everybody that knows a little about Formula One know that the Ferrari 126 C2 was Gilles Villeneuve car. So many of them, this is Gilles Villeneuve car. Neither with the correct number, neither featuring a 27, but with a 28. So this is the level of the discussions today. So you have to be in proper forum or in the proper social media pages to know what the real people knowing the history with pictures usually of this model can tell you about that. Last but not least, one of the, in my opinion, worst features of this model is that in the real car, in the original 126 C2, from every picture you can see that the real car had a strange upper body shell that was basically something made in fiberglass. Remember that this type of car in 1982, they were not made absolutely in carbon fiber. In the 1982, and I remember that I had a brief conversation with Mauro Forghieri indeed, asking him directly, because there have been the Procom 128 model, exceptional model, made by Procom nearly 20 years ago, with a lot of issues, if you know the history and the develop of the Procom model, featuring all the upper part of the body shell completely in carbon fiber. In reality, the car was absolutely fiberglass. Even if you see closely at the tragical accident of Gilles when he died with the car looked like somebody unwrapped it, like somebody really squeezed it, but you see that it's fiberglass. It's not ending in debris like the Formula One of today, made completely in real carbon fiber, and so they make a powder, they make like if they are made in crystal, Instead, this was really like when you break a hull of a plastic boat, so you have the same effect, because this car was still featuring all the upper body shell completely in fiberglass, and the only part that was made like a test in carbon fiber was this side of the side intakes, side intakes that of course in this model are with a nice eye effect, because what works in this model is that from far away, if I place it there, I say, oh god, so fucking nice. You see, so nice, so nice. Gilles Villeneuve car. Then you go near and say, okay, first of all, it's Mario Monza version. Secondary, okay, there is some detail. Oh, okay, the seat, okay, 30 euro. Okay. It's just around the price on this object. But as I say, the side air intakes are completely closed. You see, there is just a black line to make the depth of the air intake, but it's completely closed. Even if also this, in my opinion, is in a wrong shape. You see, that curve is too narrow, so it's too much narrow for the proportion that you can find. Just simply look at the picture. After my video, if you want, you take a look at the real Mario Andretti car or Gilles Villeneuve car, because in this side the car was identical, and you see the difference. As I say, that it was the front end that was different from Villeneuve and Pironi car. That's it. As I said, I hope that everybody don't misunderstand what I mean for the level that I had. I didn't finish what I was saying before. I was finishing to say that one of the most disappointing point was this part, this silver line, because in the real car this have to be completely inside. It was a kind of undershell that they had under this. Instead, in this model, they made it completely in the same level. You see. If you see any picture of that, it was there is plenty picture also of Gilles Villeneuve right before the car, as I said, the under was absolutely identical. They changed something in the suspension with some insert after Gilles Villeneuve crash, but the car basically was the same. And what you can absolutely see that under they had an aluminum and an honeycomb structure that was the main monocoque of the car, with the fuel tank behind the pilot. And so this part should not be like they did it here, but it should be completely thinner and inside. I don't know how to explain. You will see that better when I will show the model in the video, where I will make the comparison between this model and my Gilles Villeneuve car. So that's it. My tip is always this should be a model that you can find worldwide, produced by Ebro in any collection. XO Ebro is them anyway, producing them, and I think the price will be around $50 with a proper, probably Ferrari box and all the blah 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 license and so on. So if you like anyway this type of model, mostly in the scale that I love, the 124 scale, is absolutely worth it to take it and to collect it, because anyway the model is exceptional. For what you pay for, I mean, for what you pay for. That's it, 20 minutes. This time we have been a little too long. I hope you survived my explanation, and thanks for watching, and see you in the next, guys.